All right, hello everybody. Thank you for being here. We're super excited to have this presentation for Diversity in STEM Week. My name is Morgan Seco, and I'm a student office assistant at the Center for Native American Studies. And it was super fun putting together this presentation, and we're excited.
Yeah. Bonjour guys, my name is Kateri. I work over at the SEEK, and I'm really excited to share the presentation and share some understanding. So, hey.
All right, so we can go ahead and hop into it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me know if anything does not show for everybody. Can you all see the screen share?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry about that. I have never been an admin of a Zoom before, so I'm kind of experimenting myself here. There we go.
Okay. So how we're introduce the plants is that we'll say the name and then we'll say some understanding and some of the traditional uses. So our first plant here in our virtual plant walk is our fall sunflower, and understanding it'd be Giza Sobogons.
And then we will introduce some of these traditional uses for each plant. And all these plants are found in the outdoor learning area behind West Science. So in the springtime, when some of these start popping up and you have this awesome presentation in the back of your head, you can go out and look at them. We'll have it recorded too, so there'll be access to view it at a later time. But anyway, the false sunflower, some traditional uses are it can be made into a tea, into a fever-reducing tea, and it relieves congestion. And then the stems have also been used to treat malaria in the past.
Here's some understanding one breakdown. In Giza Sobogons, the Gizas in this word is for sun, the buk is for leaf, and the ns at the end of the word is for little. So like Giza Sobogons, a little sunflower.
All right, and the next plant.
Our next one here is the black-eyed Susan. Understanding one is Oza Wabigwan.
The traditional uses for the black-eyed Susan, the roots are made into a tea, and those are used for like worms, parasites, and colds. A wash can also be made from the roots, and it's used for like topical application for sores, snake bites, and any swelling. And it's also, the root juice is used for earaches, which is really cool.
And understand one breakdown for Oza Wabigwan. For Ozawa, it's yellow, and then Wabigwan is flower. So yellow flower, Oza Wabigwan. Okay, so for our next one, for purple coneflower, or otherwise known as echinacea, for Giza Sobogons. For another flower we had earlier for sunflower, we also had the same word. So I was discussing like with one of my professors on a different word for echinacea. We typically would have another word, but due to like finding resources and sometimes with our like language loss, it's hard to find those different words. I was also told like these plants may have like several different names because of the several different uses. So that's another aspect to language revitalization, is to connect like all of these words and have them in day-to-day use. So yeah.
All right, some traditional uses for the purple coneflower. It is usually harvested in the late summer and can also be used as a tea, which is really common in most of these plants. A lot of the medicinal benefits come from the teas made out of the stems or the leaves. This carries many health benefits, a lot of anti-inflammatory nutrients, and it's filled with really good antioxidants.
All right, our next plant here is the sugar maple, or inanatic.
Traditional uses. So sap is gathered annually by tapping, and it's made into really good maple sugar and syrup. And the sap can also be used for immune support, hydration, and energy.
On the Shtambamun breakdown, we have an inana for man and a tick for tree.
And if anyone has any questions on these plants, feel free to go ahead and ask away.
Next one we have is white sage, or shkotabok. And what I we say in shkotawabok.
Traditional uses for sage. It's used as a smudge for trauma and emotional purification.
Some one breakdown, we have mskota for grasslands and bok for leaf. Next, we have our white oak, or mtugomish.
So white oak has acorns, which are the seeds of the tree, and these are used for making flour that's added to traditional foods. Dr. Reinhardt actually brought in some acorn flour that he made into I think he made it into a pie, and it was really good. It was a pie or some bread. I don't know. It was amazing.
For our national breakdown, for mtugomish, for mtik for tree, and mish for plant. Next, we have creeping juniper for ogawash.
Creeping juniper, the strips of bark are used to weave into mats, and the tea is used to aid in asthma.
Okay, ogawash or gagawandok. For first one, we have oga for walleye, and then wash for plant. And then we have for the two words, just like what I was talking about like earlier. We will have multiple names sometimes for one certain plant. We have gagawandok for ogagagu for raven, amdak for needle or leaves. Also to point out in our name translation, we have like in the little white box, which Morgan had to carefully get because it's kind of hard to get for our syllabics. So in certain territories, Anishinaabe, and I've also seen Cree written it too, they'll have it all written down in syllabic, so there's no like English letters. So that was really cool. Next, we have our goldenrod, which is Gizis omshkaki.
Goldenrod is, you can use the roots and extract like the roots, make it into like a hot salve, and it's applied externally for lung hemorrhages, which is very like particular to the plant, but it's a really good remedy. And the wet flowers are applied externally for chest pain and also applied to burns, so a topical use mainly.
For our breakdown, we have Gizis for the sun, Namshkaki for medicine.
A lot of these are really good pollinator plants too, so you'll see butterflies and bees on them all the time.
I have a quick question about the goldenrod.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if either of you would know this, but I know like I do a lot of natural fiber dyeing and stuff. Do you know if like traditionally goldenrod was used for like fabric dyes at all or anything like that?
That's a good question, and I bet so. Like a lot of these plants we use was for we usually dyed them. So that's a good question. I should ask around about that. I would assume so, yeah, that we'd probably use them for dyeing, but I cannot say that for sure, and I would have to ask. Thank you.
That was a great question.
Thanks.
Next we have crabapple for Mshimanatik.
These are fun pictures from when we picked a crabapple tree right behind the Center for Native American Studies this fall. We picked 3 giant buckets full of them. But the fruit is used as food after being harvested in the fall, and the apples can be used for recipes such as canned jelly, applesauce, pies, anything you can make into something really good using the apples.
For our breakdown, we have mshe for big or great, we have min for berry, and the tik for tree. So mshimanatik. Mshiman also means like apple. So the breakdown for apple would be like a big berry. Shout out to Judd, that's from Judd's class. So mshimanatik. Next, we have our Labrador, which is Mishkikobak amnibish.
Labrador is also made into a tea and improves lung health and can be harvested year-round.
For Anishinaabe translation, Mishkikobak amnibish translates to swamp tea. We could also say just Mishkikobak for the plant. The amnibish at the end is like for tea. Next, we have choke cherry. This one's fun. Ososo womanagunash.
The inner bark of chokecherry it can be liquefied as tea and as a cough syrup and helps alleviate throat pain.
So for our breakdown, we have ososwa for having to do with coughing, for berry, and then mush for plant. Next, we have the common milkweed, which is nanwesh, also known as nanwejux for like soup.
So common milkweed is a pollinator plant and is harvested at a certain time of year. And the pods can be used to make a variety of foods, such as the soup Kateri mentioned on the first slide.
Something else to add about like nanwejux, like for cultural significance, is that sometimes like when we say like we eat certain foods, it's kind of crazy because nanwejux harvested at a certain time could be very poisonous. And so I traditionally like I'll harvest them and then I'll take like the little bulbs for the soup like we said earlier. And I even take like the leaves from it at a certain time. And this was a food that when the Potawatomi walked from the Trail of Death, this was a food that we really relied on to keep ourselves fed. So a lot of these plants are very culturally significant for that reason. So I think it's really important that we're all here and learning like the Anishinaabe names for also these traditional medicines, because it's really important to understand about people for survival and cultural revitalization. Yeah. Next we have bee balm, which is my favorite, amoesh.
So bee balm is harvested for tea and it promotes metabolic functions and alleviates cramping during a woman's moon time. And the long stem of the plant, they usually stand pretty tall, and it's used to smoke and promote lung health.
Next we have cedar, which is gishki.
Cedar is a tree medicine and is primarily picked and cleansed by women and children. And it is a cleansing and purifying medicine. And it's often used in the form of tea.
Next we have our sweet fern, which is nagajim mchkaki.
Sweet fern is harvested in spring, summer, and fall, and it's primarily used for digestive health.
For our breakdown, we have nagajim, as I'm pretty sure is the intestine part, and the amchkuki for the medicine. Another like interesting thing about sweet fern is that if you like look at it, we say some of our medicines actually look like the part of the body that it's supposed to help. So if you look at the sweet fern leaves, it kind of looks like our like intestines if you see it. So that's why we call it the intestine medicine. So it's pretty neat.
Very cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Next we have sumac, bakwanatik.
So sumac is also harvested in spring, summer, and fall, and it's ground down into this really gorgeous red powder, and it's used in food or medicine, and it's very rich in nutrients and antioxidants.
Next we have plantain, which is mchako book.
Plantain is used as a topical wound healing agent, and the leaves can be applied topically to treat eczema, insect stings, or any inflamed skin. And leaves are packed with nutrients that can boost immune health. I feel like we see this stuff all the time around, just like, and we think it's a weed, but it's not. It has a lot of really good uses.
It's so helpful. Next we have our spruce for jingo.
So the needles from spruce are extracted, and they have like an oil, and so the oil can be extracted from the needles and used in tea to aid with upper respiratory problems, fevers, pain, and especially mouth swelling, because it's more of like a strong oil, and it helps topically with arthritis and can also be used in food. And that was it. Do we have any questions?
I have a question again.
Go for it.
Oh, my camera's not on. Hold on, I'll fix that. Hello, that way you guys can see me. So you're not just talking to a black screen. So I know in my experience with foraging, like some plants you have to like prepare or like consume in a certain way, or they like lose their nutrients. Like chickweed, you can't cook it or it loses most of its like vitamin C. Were there any of these that like kind of have that? Because I know you mentioned like what time of year you harvest them matters, but I was wondering if like preparation matters at all.
Yeah, that is a really good question to bring up because preparation is super important. We didn't touch too heavy on it, but yeah, no, for real. If you prepare some of these plants a certain way, like especially for tea, we say that if you boil it, it loses a lot of its value. So you have to like have it simmer right before the boil, and then we turn off the water and kind of let it seep for a minute. That's how I that's how I prepare like most of these plants, but some of them are different. Like when you harvest like sumac and stuff, don't you have to like you have to grain
Yeah,
out a
yeah.
lot of that,
Yeah,
right?
I think it's toxic if you don't. I'm not sure though. It might be. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. If Judd knows anything too, go ahead. Feel free to chip in here because
yeah.
we didn't talk much on the preparation of these.
Yeah, sumac is really mildly toxic over a long, long period of time. You'd have to drink really large quantities of it to bother you. And then they say that that compound there is broken down by being boiled. It's no longer cohesive as something that's kind of abrasive to the mucous membranes and all that. So if you boil it, it'll take away even that very slight toxic effect for the sumac anyways. Yeah, it's got that nice, almost like a lemon juice flavor. We used to make, what do we call it? Summer tea or something, but you put it in a pitcher and then it just kind of drink it like lemonade.
Yeah, lemonade. That's what I always heard about sumac. It tastes like really good lemonade.
Yeah.
I wonder if like some of our other ones were like that too. We can go to the Excel sheet right now. I know that sumac was a big one that was different. Yeah, probably for some of like choke cherries is probably a certain way too. They probably have like the seed, right?
Choke cherries do have that seed in the middle, I believe. So you have to
Yeah.
prepare those that way. And I think if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but I think spruce, if you don't boil it, it's like it could cause like a reaction out of. I know, yeah. I think spruce needles too. If you don't boil them down, they could make humans upset, not animals. So that's a cool thing that plants have. Plants are very selective with what foragers can consume them without having to prepare them in a certain way. So it's actually like a really cool plant defense mechanism against like their herbivorous predators, which is really cool. I love plants. Like plants have a complete mind of their own and they know exactly like who's trying to forage them, and they give these reactions to people or organisms with like certain chemicals in their body. If they don't like it, then you're gonna get sick from it.
It's so interesting. Another thing,
I think we have a question from Gary.
My question is, did you go over and talk about the difference between the poisonous? Like I know there's difference between sumac and poison sumac, so that people didn't go and pick the wrong stuff.
yeah, that's like that's really important. They're imposter plants. I think like a majority of the plants we talked about do have imposter plants, so it's really important to like heavily.
Yeah, it's about your knowledge, honestly, of the plant, how to identify it, and really tell the difference between what's going to hurt you or help you. And that's just part of immersing yourself in the knowledge of knowing what you need.
Yeah, let's see the smooth sumac. It's got smooth berry. That's the poisonous one. The one that's good is like fuzzy. And it's got those, looks like deer horns with the velvet still on them, the branches. But the fuzzy one's the good one. The smooth one is poisonous. Smooth sumac, bad. Fuzzy sumac, good.
Earlier I did an event on sweet fern, and my main goal was to pick the sweet fern myself and then prepare it for the presentation. And it was really hard to find because I would see a picture and I'd have it in my mind like, oh, this is what it looks like. And I was gonna be really easy to find. I'm just gonna go out in the woods. I'm gonna see it. It's gonna go real smooth. It did not go real smooth. I took multiple trips, one with one of my friends, and like multiple like different people, and it was really hard to find. So even when you feel really confident, sometimes it's always good to like double check and maybe even bring other people that are also like experienced in plants, because it can be dangerous if you like go out with no knowledge or just with like a picture in mind, because it's very layered.
Well, any more questions? question from Dr. Galbraith. Do you recommend any books that provide good explanations? Yeah, so there's definitely books, especially for the Michigan, Wisconsin region. There's like just the native plant books that we have. We actually have a resource center in the Center for Native American Studies, and we have plenty of books with traditional uses. And I know you can find them anywhere. The bookstore actually sells really cool plant books that are just like kind of like full packets, and they tell you like where to find them, where they are native to, how to use them, and they also show like different pictures of like the what did you call them, imposter plants, so you can tell the difference by pictures, which is really helpful. I know for myself out in the field, if I go out and I'm like looking at a plant, I like to see pictures to compare them, honestly, just to make sure I'm not picking the wrong one. 3 acres of sweet fern. Oh, that's amazing.
Holy,
Oh.
that's lucky. I want sweet fern.
I have a few books to show.
Oh, cool. Okay.
This one's called Strength of the Earth. It's by Francis Densmore. This is specifically Ojibwe plants. So that's a good one. It's really a reprint of a much older document, but this one is a Glyphwick, Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission. Also just Ojibwe. So if you go to their website, they have those. And then, do I have the ability to share the screen?
Oh, I don't know. We kind of went through that beforehand because Amber was.
The way I would do this is up on our participants list. If you right click on people, it says more. You go to more and then it says make co-host. I don't know.
There you go.
Okay, let's see if this works. So we got a harvest calendar, which will show you what's out right now. This is also Glyphwick. So if we will go to the winter section, we'd figure out where we're at now. It's not too much going on in the winter, according to this one here. What Glyphwick does is they talk to a bunch of elders and they kind of put all the information together. But there's some cool stuff, high bush cranberries and different kinds of teas. So that's one resource. You can get this also off the Glyphwick Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission website. And then there's this guy here from Milwaukee. This is Ethnobotany of Ojibwe. This man is a non-native man, but he did a number of studies in the, let's see what year this is from. I want to say the 20s or 30s. In different parts of Wisconsin. 1932. So that's a few resources. Yeah, Densmore, Smith, and then Glyphwick. I know there's one more, but I can't think of it at the moment. Usually when you look in the plant books, what they've done is taken information from really only 3 or 4 sources that have to do with Ojibwe. So that big, thick ethnobotany book by Michael Moorman called American Indian Ethnobotany. That one's really for the Ojibwe stuff in there. It's really just from Densmore, some medical receipts by somebody named Reagan, H. Huron Smith, that one we just looked at. There's one more, I'll think of it in a minute.
Nice, cool. Also, like another person that's really good for like Anishinaabe like plant knowledge and stuff. His name is Joseph Petoniquet, and he runs like Creator's Garden, and he has a lot of good information on like all kinds of different plants up here in the like Great Lakes region. He's somebody that I like to like follow and listen to. I could probably type that in the chat. Yeah. Make sure I'm saying Creator's Garden right though.
Terry, can I bother you to explain to them how to use tobacco to ask for plats and ask for help?
Thank you for bringing that up. I was thinking about that earlier. So for me, when I'm like going out to harvest my plants, I'll always like have my sema or my tobacco, and I'll put it in my left hand, which is closer to my heart. and I will say like my neshama name. Like not everybody who uses their tobacco to pray has their neshama name. They'll just use their regular name. And I'll say like where I'm from, and in my prayer I'll like ask like if I can like use the medicine. I'll say like what I want to use this medicine for, and the best way of like going about it, and like out of respect. And I'll put my sama down for like my traditional way of harvesting my plants, which is the primary way that I will harvest my plants. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Language.
Okay, I'll write in Joseph the comic code as well in the chat. I write his name too. There we go.
Perfect. And yeah, like Amber said in the chat, to the question about where we can access this presentation afterwards, is we have a CNS YouTube channel. So we'll post that later this week, and you can go ahead and go on there and reference it. And I hope you do when you go out and this spring when everything blooms and is back to green, hopefully sooner rather than later. Yeah, I encourage you to use this and this is for fungi. Oh man, I feel like fungi is a whole new.
That's a whole. I've never dipped my toe into like the mushroom fungi region, so I would not be able to do that presentation at all.
I want to take mycology because I think that would be so interesting to learn about. There's so many different types of fungi too. So
yeah,
That's something about the fungi.
do what?
Yeah, there. Those
okay.
see for those mushrooms, they're called oshwashquedols or washashquedols, which means little blue thing, or it means little muskrat. I don't know why that would be, why they would call it little muskrat, except for maybe people might have heard the word mushroom, heard the word muskrat, and then said, okay, let's do washashquedols. Either that or oshwashquedols, which is blue-green little thing. Sounds kind of like washashquedols, so they started saying it as muskrat, little muskrat thing. Those mushrooms, I think in the old days, there's a kind of a quiet debate going on for a long time as to how popular mushrooms were, in the decolonizing diet project way of thinking, how popular they were. And it sounds like people are still discussing it. Some are saying that they were very rare in traditional diet because they were dangerous, potentially. Others are saying they were a few of them, like chicken in the woods, were common and popular. So I think that the community is still discussing that as the traditional diet is being recovered. But there's some fun uses for different kinds of mushrooms. Those shikak, those little puffballs. Once they go green, they turn from white all the way through to green. That little powder that gets used for a baby talc, to keep from chafing and in diapering. So in the Tikanagan on a cradle board, kind of women's teachings, but I remember hearing that.
Do you know of any use for like the pheasant back mushrooms traditionally, or like the diet saddle?
I have not heard of any, like for me personally. I haven't heard of any traditional teachings for mushrooms, that's also a good question. I'm gonna remember that for next time.
I wish I knew more about mushrooms. I feel like it's a whole different realm, like we said.
Yes,
And then Jordan in the chat, she said that there's Estevan Pines in Copper Harbor. I'm gonna have to go. That sounds really cool.
that does sound really cool.
All right. Anything else before we go ahead and end this awesome chat? I'm loving these questions. It's very fun.
We are gonna have to go sometime. We're gonna have to go mushroom picking.
Oh, I'll show you all my favorite spots, Kateri, I promise.
Let's go. I'm so excited.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming. That was super fun, and I'm hoping you use this knowledge further. And yeah, this is very fun to put on for this STEM week.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming out and learning. Like I said before, like it's really important that we take back the Anishinaabe like traditions and start to use them day to day, because it is really important to us in the land to maintain that. I always like say when we're talking about like foraging and talking about plants that I believe that the plants in the earth, like they miss us, like they miss how we would interact with them. And I don't think they get that as much and as often anymore. So I'm always really appreciative of people when they come in and they learn some of the traditional teachings behind these plants that we have so much knowledge on, because there's so much knowledge embedded into our traditional like beliefs and values. So yeah, thank you guys.
All right. Thank you,
Alright.
everybody.
Hey, pamamina.
Mama,
Come on, happy day hugs.